ABC 10 News at 5 starts right now.
ABC 10 News at 5 starts now.
And good evening. I'm Steve Atkinson. I am joined remotely by my co-anchor Lindsay Pena. We're going to be checking in with her shortly. But first, we have some breaking news to report. The captain of that scuba diving boat that caught fire and sank off the coast of Santa Barbara last year has been indicted on federal manslaughter charges. 33 passengers and 1 crew member were killed while asleep below deck. A San Diego woman was among those victims. Those 5 crew members who survived, they were asleep on the upper deck. Back in October, the NTSB agreed on 18 key findings in this investigation, including the lack of required roving night watchmen and smoke detectors. But the agency did not find an exact cause for the fire.
Now to the latest on the coronavirus in San Diego County. Today we are marking a grim milestone. 22 new deaths were reported, bringing our total to 1,019. And there were almost 1,400 new cases, bringing that total to more than 83,000. Meantime, hospital ICUs in Southern California are projected to be over capacity within the next few weeks. The pandemic pushing some healthcare systems across the country to the edge. ABC 10 News reporter Melissa Messiha spoke to a local healthcare worker about her staffing concerns right here in San Diego.
As we wait for a vaccine, coronavirus numbers are not getting any better. Not only are hospitals dealing with patients they would typically see during this time of year, COVID-19 patients are adding stress to thinning resources.
If these trends continue, we're going to have to take much more dramatic, arguably drastic action.
The governor said nearly 75% of ICU beds in Southern California are occupied. It's projected to be at 107% by Christmas Eve.
I have a guarded concern about the direction that we're moving in.
Samantha Gambles-Farr is a nurse practitioner and president of the San Diego Black Nurses Association. While she's worried about staffing, she's also worried about the mental and physical health of her colleagues.
The staffing issues have always been something that we've dealt with in the ICU because of the critical acuteness of our patients and the burnout of staff. Nurses are picking up a lot more overtime, and shifts are being asked to work a lot more than they have in the past.
Early in the pandemic, the state created the California Health Corps. It asked for those with healthcare experience to help with the COVID-19 outbreak. Thousands, including retired workers and nursing students, volunteered. But according to the Sacramento Bee, only around 900 people are ready to be deployed. In New York, Governor Andrew Cuomo has already called for extra help.
Every hospital has to identify retired nurses and doctors now. We're already experiencing staff shortages.
It's not like we can then call on our colleagues, from another state to help us because they're dealing with the exact same issue.
Melissa Messiha, ABC 10 News.
And today the CDC announced new guidelines shortening the amount of days needed to quarantine after COVID-19 exposure. The new recommendation suggests that people quarantine for 10 days or 7 with a negative result. Previous guidelines instructed people to quarantine for 14 days. The CDC is still working on those guidelines, but says they could be released as early as tonight.
Tomorrow, the county is expected to unveil its plan to start getting a coronavirus vaccine out to San Diegans. The first doses are expected to be shipped out within the next few weeks. Well, today, the CDC officially recommended that healthcare workers and nursing home residents get the vaccine first. The state and county governments will decide how to distribute it. We tracked down a local doctor who is helping the state review the vaccine for safety. He says distribution is complicated, but he's optimistic.
A vaccine that's 95% effective was beyond our dreams when we first started talking about this. So if that holds up, then we're in good shape with regard to this pandemic.
And once the vaccine is approved, it's estimated between 5 and 10 million doses will be available each week. And as we just mentioned, healthcare workers and long-term care residents will be the first in line for those vaccines. This comes as cases of COVID-19 continue to surge across the U.S. Here's ABC's Elizabeth Schulze.
Tonight, a critical recommendation from a CDC panel on who should be first in line to get a COVID-19 vaccine once it's approved. A group of independent health experts voting to recommend healthcare workers and residents in long-term care facilities should get the first doses of a limited supply. The decision will ultimately be made by states and cities who will be in charge of distributing the vaccine. a process the former CDC director says won't be easy.
This is probably the single most complicated vaccination program in American history.
One challenge, Pfizer's vaccine needs to be stored at ultra-low temperatures. This hospital in Delaware receiving 10 freezers so it can be ready as soon as the vaccine is approved. The head of the FDA telling ABC News that could happen within weeks.
In terms of setting the appropriate expectations, we are balancing the public health emergency we're facing and the fact that people are getting sick with COVID with the need to get this right.
But with months to go until most Americans will receive the vaccine, healthcare workers say now is not the time to get complacent.
I ask for you to wear a mask in public. And I ask for you to be safe and just keep our healthcare workers in mind because it's hard.
The COVID Tracking Project reports there are nearly 100,000 Americans currently hospitalized with COVID-19, while infection rates doubled from October to November. In cities across the nation, Americans enduring long lines to get tested after the Thanksgiving holiday. Nurses in New York overwhelmed by the influx of cases going on strike, begging for more resources. The White House is planning to host a COVID-19 vaccine summit next week, which will include several governors and executives from the private sector. President Trump has said he should be getting more credit for the vaccines. In New York, Elizabeth Schulze, ABC News.
And the coronavirus may have come to the United States earlier than previously thought. The CDC had said the first COVID-19 cases in the U.S. where they were reported back in January. But according to a study that was published just yesterday, the virus could have started infecting people a month earlier in December. More than 7,000 blood samples were collected from 9 states and tested for COVID-19 antibodies. More than 100 were found to have those antibodies. Stay on top of any new developments with coronavirus by downloading the 10 News app. A free version is available in the App Store.
We want to check back on a rollover crash on the southbound 15 at El Cajon Boulevard. This happened about 20 minutes ago and has created a major backup. Police are on scene right now. It's unclear what led up to the crash, and there's no word yet on any injuries. We'll update you as soon as we learn more. And the medical board is planning to take away the license of a doctor charged with peeking and prowling around his ex-girlfriend's North County house. It's a major update in a story Team 10 investigative reporter Jennifer Kastner first broke last year with home security video.
This afternoon, the Medical Board of California wrote to ABC 10 News that Dr. Jeffrey Lovin may continue to practice under the terms of his probation until his license is revoked on December 18th. New reaction Tuesday from an ex-girlfriend who said this is radiologist Dr. Jeffrey Lovin lurking by her window while she and her fiance were inside her North County home. It was captured on security video last year and led to charges of peeking and prowling, to which he's pleaded not guilty. He was already on probation with the state medical board for other criminal activity. Now the board has ordered that in about 2 weeks his license be taken away for mental or physical impairment and unprofessional conduct by failing to comply with the terms of his probation.
We never know if we're safe.
His ex-girlfriend, whose name and face were not showing, told ABC 10 News Tuesday that she and her fiancé, Frank Ziegler, still live in fear. ABC 10 News first interviewed them in 2019.
I hear any noise at night and I'm out in front seeing what's going on in my home. And we lock all our doors, keep all our blinds closed round the clock.
He's scheduled to stand trial in March for the peeking and prowling case.
We want to be done. We want him to lose his license so he doesn't do this to anybody else, and we just feel like this is maybe the first step toward a little justice.
On Tuesday, ABC 10 News spoke with someone at the law office that has represented Dr. Lovin. She declined to connect us with him to see if he wanted to offer any comment. Jennifer Kastner, ABC 10 News.
A suspicious device reported earlier this afternoon in La Jolla, in a La Jolla neighborhood, turned out to just be a butane honey oil device. Sky 10 flew over the scene when the San Diego Fire Department's bomb team showed up on the 600 block of La Jolla Hermosa. Upon closer inspection, the bomb team determined that object was not hazardous, and they said they would dispose of it.
Turning now to our weather, fire danger will be high this week with low humidity and breezy winds return. Another red flag warning is set to go into effect tomorrow. Our meteorologist, Angelica Campos, is tracking those changing conditions and not barking. Those are her dogs. She's not barking. She's got the weather for us. Hello, Angelica.
There is somebody at the door.
Oh, okay.
So they're letting them know that I'm busy right now.
Great.
We have a red flag warning in effect. You know, life happens when you're at home. Red flag warning in effect until 10 p.m. Saturday. It begins at 6 p.m. Wednesday. And a high wind watch will also be in effect. Please excuse my dogs. You know, when somebody gets to the door, there's nothing you can do. This will last until noon on Friday. The powerful winds could potentially reach speeds over 60 miles per hour. Those would be strong enough to bring down trees and power lines. So it is my understanding that SDG&E is already warning a lot of people that the power could be shut off because of the threat of gusty winds. We could even see strong winds starting tomorrow in areas like Escondido and Ramona, but they will get stronger by the end of the day. We'll have much more, and I'll keep the dogs quiet coming up.
It's great. We know that you're safe with the dogs. All right. SDG&E, as Angelica just mentioned, is warning that it may have to shut off the power for some of those communities because of those high winds. Those outages, they could last days. SDG&E says more than 88,000 customers are in those areas. Outages could happen as early as tomorrow night. The threat, though, could last through Monday.
Attorney General William Barr says the Justice Department has not uncovered any evidence of widespread voter fraud and has seen nothing that would change the outcome of the election. As ABC's Andrew Dimbert reports, this comes as President-elect Joe Biden unveils his economic team.
The peaceful transition of power is underway, even if President Donald Trump has yet to publicly acknowledge he lost his race for re-election fair and square. After weeks of stonewalling by the lame duck president, President-elect Joe Biden finally received his first daily briefing of classified national security intelligence Monday, and today, moving forward, building his staff, introducing his new economic leadership team.
A team that's tested and experienced. It includes groundbreaking Americans who come from different backgrounds, but who share my core vision for economic relief here in the United States of America.
The president-elect making good on a promise to diversify the White House. For Treasury Secretary, former Fed Chair Janet Yellen would make history as the first woman in the role if confirmed by the Senate. Cecilia Rouse, a Princeton economist, would become the first black nominee to head the president's Economic Council. Over the weekend, Biden announcing an all-female senior communications staff, further shattering glass ceilings.
I hope these outstanding nominees will receive a prompt hearing, and that we will be able to work across the aisle in good faith.
While Biden looks forward to leading the country, Trump is looking back with mounting failed efforts to reverse the results of the 2020 election piling up.
The 2020 election was rigged. It was a scam, and the whole world is watching, and they're laughing at our country. They're laughing at us.
And there is growing concern within the GOP that Trump's baseless attacks on election integrity could demotivate Republican voters, costing Republicans control of the Senate. In Georgia, two critical Senate runoff races have control of the chamber hanging in the balance. Winning both seats for Democrats means an easier path for Biden's cabinet picks to be confirmed and to get his policies enacted. And now even Trump's own Attorney General William Barr saying the Department of Justice has not uncovered widespread voter fraud, telling the Associated Press, quote, "To date, we have not seen fraud on a scale that could have affected a different outcome in the election." Andrew Dimbert, ABC News, Washington.
President Trump is continuing to raise huge sums of money. Today, the Washington Post reported that his campaign has raised more than $170 million since Election Day. That money has come from a barrage of online fundraising solicitations, pushing the false narrative that there was widespread election fraud. The president is asking for money for a legal defense fund to challenge the election. However, multiple news outlets point out any donation less than $8,000 goes to the president's super PAC and RNC instead of that recount effort.